Hello, Fire Goddesses. Welcome to episode 62. You probably remember maybe around this time last year in 2020, I had my very first podcast guest, and that was Jen Stillion. And today I am really excited because I am welcoming Jen back for a comeback episode where we are going to dive deep into sex, pleasure, and manifestation. Jen is just an unbelievable person. I adore her to pieces. I will put her information in the show notes, but she runs a program or a membership program where she helps her clients manifest through movement and dance and many, many other things. So, as you probably will soon discover, if you don't know Jen personally already, Jen is this amazing firecracker woman and a goddess, also a fellow fire goddess. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode and this conversation because we are going to be talking all about sex, baby. All right, fire goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, Fire Goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am a prosperity coach for the newly awakened or awake curious, driven overachiever, and overdoer. After running a successful acupuncture practice in Boston for 12 years, I decided to hang my hat by closing the practice and pursue what it is that I'm really meant to do in this world. And that is to serve humanity online on a global scale. Using my background in Chinese medicine, along with the brain science of habits, spirituality, and divine masculine and feminine energy balance, I am here to help you not just understand, but know how powerful you are and that you are the person who is responsible for having the finances, inner peace, radiant health, and energy, aka the fire, in your life that you've always desired. My intention with this podcast is to serve humanity, no matter what gender you identify as, to help bring out the divine feminine goddess in each and every one of you. As you probably are already aware, the world is changing and is begging for the goddess to come out in each and every one of you. So, fire goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. I don't know if you recall, but back in sometime in 2020, probably in the summer of 2020, I had the lovely unicorn, Jen Stillion. I believe you were my first guest, Jen.
Was I your first guest?
Yes, you were. You were my
Whoa.
very, very first guest. So it's really exciting to see you back on the
Yay.
podcast. We're doing it again almost a year later.
Holy moly. That is crazy. What a year.
I know, I know. And now I'm looking at you. I know I'm not doing video podcasting right now, but I'm looking at Jen in her sweet, beautiful new house with all
Mm.
these colorful paintings and artwork behind her. And you look like you're in your bliss.
Yep. I totally am in my blissed. Blissed. Can I say bliss? Blissed? Yes, I am in my new mountain dream home. So awesome.
Yeah, it looks really lovely. So, welcome back, Jen.
Oh,
Nice to
I'm
have
so
you.
glad to be here. Yay.
Yay. So, we were offline chatting a little bit before I pressed record, and we've been back and forth discussing what we're going to talk about today. And we realized that what the fire goddesses, what people really need is to really feel comfortable and step into their power when it comes to their sexuality.
Mm.
So To be perfectly transparent, Jen and I we threw out a couple of ideas, but we're trusting that what needs to come through will come through today. So, Jen, just really quickly before we go on, I would love it if you could just reintroduce yourself to the audience. Let everybody know what you do, how you help people, because I know it's shifted a little bit since we last spoke.
Yeah, yeah. A lot has transpired in the last year for sure. And if you own your own business, you know what that means. You just really evolve and you grow and um, things change. So I'm an abundance coach, or some people call me a manifestation movement coach. So, and a speaker, but I use movement as a way to hone in your power, release energy, release unwanted beliefs about yourself. I use movement to manifest much faster, easily, quicker. And it's not just physical movement like dancing, it's movement in your mind, it's moving your emotions. I teach EFT tapping. It's really stepping into your power, which I know we're going to be talking about that today. And one of the most powerful things to really tap into is your sexuality and being comfortable with your body and who you are. And it says a lot about who you are inside the bedroom, and how you are giving, how you are receiving, how you are really just being in your power and owning it. And also, maybe we could talk about this too, Angela, is it's a really incredible way to manifest when you are, in your sexual peak and you're in that high energy. And it's like there's just so many benefits when you are really just being your true powerful self in the bedroom. And it doesn't have to be in the bedroom. I'm just saying the bedroom, anywhere, whatever floats your boat. In
Right.
the elevator. I'm just kidding. And that's what I think, that's probably the direction that, and just pretend it's and Angela's one of my good friends. So it's like two girlfriends talking about, our own experiences, and as guides and coaches as we both are, and how, sex has really been, it should not be a taboo subject. It's a very normal thing because we all do it.
That's right.
And it's just something that needs to be talked about more, specifically with women who just being open to talking about it, and without shame and without guilt, and to really just identify like what is, because it's really the beliefs and the thoughts that you have. If you're not comfortable being with yourself and giving yourself pleasure, and then if you're not comfortable, really just being your true self in the bedroom with your partner, that says a lot about where you are and who you are. And but yeah, I'm just going on a ramble, so
No, I'm really, you kind of, you brought forth, just listening to you, just some ideas and thoughts. So, um, first of all, I'm so excited that we're talking about this because, like you said, there are more and more people that are coming forward, influencers that are really fairly well known talking about this subject, but I still don't believe that it's talked about enough. And I know this because I was talking about this in a couple of groups that you're also in with me.
mhm,
And some of the comments and some of the feedback I got from people was they really, and these are women, fellow goddesses,
mhm.
they really had no idea that certain things existed, which we're going to talk about later. We're going to talk about yoni eggs and some other fun things that you can use as tools to enhance pleasure. So,
Yes.
but to your point, I really I hear you with how you see yourself in the bedroom, whether you're with a partner. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't have a partner, and I really want to drive home that it's not a matter of whether you have a partner or not. It's a matter of your relationship with yourself. Your
Mhm.
sexuality starts with yourself. And for so many of us, myself included, I grew up believing that there was some kind of shame label attached to my sexuality and the idea of sex, and that it's something that you don't talk about, and it's embarrassing, and to talk about it with parents. I know I have friends who are parents that are like, oh no, so and so is getting to be the age where she's asking questions, and there's this shame around it. And my goal with having this conversation with you, Jen, is really to just open up the conversation more and just make it normal. Like, you and I are just two girlfriends chatting today.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for being a willing participant.
Oh yeah. I love talking about sex. It's my jam.
Let's
And
talk
we
about
have to talk
sex.
about we have to talk about vagina magic, vajayjay magic,
Yeah,
okay?
please
So
tell. Do you want to go?
we
Do you
talked
want to
about
just go there now, or are you
I mean,
good?
we can. Yeah. I mean, before we dive into this, what I want to say, and I know Angela, you can say this too, is that, Angela and I are not sexual therapists. We're not therapists.
Okay.
We're not doctors. This is just sharing our experiences and really kind of looking underneath the messages through it all, because it's really, we can go into detail and talk about all the sexual things, but it's you are the person behind the sex. So
Yes.
like you said, like, how are you showing up? And if you are not being open, and no pun intended, if you're not being open, to receiving, if you're not being open to giving yourself pleasure, what is causing you to do that? And it's going to be something that could be from society, the messages from society bestowed on you, could be messages from your parents. Like you, Angela, like I grew up with a lot of shame too, and I just didn't feel comfortable at all. I didn't feel comfortable in my body because me and my sisters, I mean, we were naturally had big boobs, and it was like, it was so uncomfortable because I was not taught to just accept that about me, because it was like the way people looked at me, they didn't look at me in the eye, they looked at my chest, and I was a performer on stage my whole life, and I didn't have the right support. So you just see me on stage with this big blob going up and down on my chest, and the attention I would get because of that. And
Hmm.
it's like, I just felt like I was treated like just this woman who had big breasts, and I was so confused, so confused. And so there's so many different messages that we've received. And as you're an adult now, and it's up to you to, and I know most of your listeners are on this path of transforming their lives and channeling their inner goddess, and it's up to you to work on those messages. And you have all the signs right there. Like, if you were not giving yourself regular pleasure by yourself,
Yeah.
doing the M&Ms, I call it the M&Ms, which is masturbation, because it's just funny. I don't know. These things come to me. I don't know what they are. Okay, but
I freaking love it.
if you're not giving yourself the M&Ms, then what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Are you having shame around it? Is it taboo to you? The vajayjay was designed for pleasure. It's not design. It is designed. There's procreation, of course, but it's designed to experience magic, to experience pleasure.
Yeah.
That's what women have.
Yeah.
Men, it's different, completely different.
And the more and I want to thank you, first of all, just saying we're not sex therapists. We're just sharing information based on experience. But I was watching a video by Teal Swan, the menstruation video. I don't know. Did you
Mhm.
watch that?
Mhm,
Oh
mhm.
my gosh, so powerful. But one thing she said was that, in ancient times, and I feel like she's a reliable source. Like, she's legit. She gets her information from. So I don't know exactly what her source is, but one thing she was saying is that people knew about how powerful women were and how powerful the vagina, or the yoni, the Sanskrit name for vagina, was back then. People knew that.
Oh yeah.
And because we live in a patriarchal society, it was decided because of religion, and this is not my area of expertise, so I'm going to speak to it as best as I can. Basically, it was that information was kept away from women that were really powerful. And you have a really interesting experience that I hope that you're comfortable sharing here
Yeah, yeah.
about what happens when you really step into your power when it comes to your sexuality. Because my guess is many women listening to this, and it's our goal to really make this conversation interesting and approachable and not embarrassing, right? But to make this information accessible to everybody so that they know that there really is so much power that we're missing out on if we're not doing the M&Ms and if we're not standing true in our sexuality, because not standing true in our sexuality, there's a lot of parallels between sexuality and personal power. So um yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
and going back to that, during the witch trials, way back then, I think it's the Roman Catholic Church or something, they called women who were in their power and really listening to their intuition witches. They classify as witch, and witches does not mean witches as the society portrays it today, like black cats and
Yeah.
darkness. It's just women who are in their power. But one of the things that women did at that time is that they would use sex, they would grab a partner, sex, and they would, when they're climaxing, they would quote unquote cast spells. Now, what does that mean? In our terminology, they were using it to manifest, they were using it to set their intention. And this is what vagina magic is. And I have really in the last 2 years really tapped into my higher self and transformed my life. And I have been and Angela's in it too now, but I've been in this moon goddess group, guided by Eichel, and in this circle of women, safe space. And I think this is what Angela and I are saying today, is that this is a safe space, and you want to start going into circles of women, find your safe people, and start talking about these things. And it was because of this circle that allowed me to step into my power, to own my gifts. And I was the first person that talked about, okay, so when I am having an orgasm, the big O, things are starting to happen. And meaning I'm seeing visions, and I think that might be my specific gift, but I started using it as a way to manifest and set my intention. And I would either do it by myself, or I'd get my husband on board. He loved it, and it's not being disrespectful. I'm like, I am present, but I'm just so you know what happens when that because when you're climaxing, what happens is you're feeling so good. It's such a level of frequency. It's so high. It's so high that you are completely out of your head. So there's no room for overthinking or thinking about anything else. Sometimes we do think about things, but for me, it's such a release that I use that moment to set an intention of specifically that I want. So I saw my mountain home over and over again during those times. And then I manifested it, and it's above and beyond anything I can imagine. So that's just an example.
That's
Um,
so powerful, Jen.
and really believe any of you can do this. Now, it did take it to another level. I started to see visions. I started to go into different dimensions and see things. And my husband would be like, "What happened to you? Where did you go?" And I'm like, "I don't really know." And I would see things, and that's just my own thing that it's just revealing itself to me. But I do believe, just the same as, this is why I love dancing and movement, because when you're dancing, you put on your favorite song. We've all danced one time in our lives. It's the same thing, because you're vibrating on this high level and you're in so much joy and you're out of your head, you're in the moment. That's a powerful way to speak your truth and to manifest something. So that's when we talk, that's my whole thing about the JJ magic, because it is
Yeah.
magic.
That is I'm so glad that you shared that with me and also with this audience, because I suspect that there's going to be some goddesses listening, some fire
Mm,
goddess listening that are going to say, that's really interesting. I have experienced that before. But
mhm.
when you have these experiences and you keep them to yourself because you're like, oh, I don't know, like I don't know if I should share this, but like one of our mentors says, Jim, what's most personal is most general. So again, just sharing when women, like you said, we go into circle and share in a safe space, or sharing on this podcast, which is also a safe space, we learn from each other and we learn more about ourselves. And, you know, I'm guessing there's going to be at least 5 women that are hearing this podcast that are going to say, you know what, the last time I had sex, it's really interesting. I saw angels. And I feel like there's even jokes about that, right? Like in movies
Yeah,
and stuff, when around orgasm,
yeah.
when, women are like, I saw God, right? The
Yes, the heavens open up, and I'm like,
heavens.
no, no, no. But it's so
Yeah.
true.
Yes.
So true. You just need to be more mindful of it and more intentional. But for me to get to that place, why was this happening in the last 2 years? I've been on this planet. Started coming to my sexuality when I don't even know what age, but why did this all of a sudden happen? I'm almost 44. And the reason why is because I started to work on myself, shed some layers, shed some ego, work on me. And the more you are working on yourself from the inside out, the more you are connecting with your true nature, and you're releasing old beliefs, you're releasing the unwanted energy that you've been carrying for so many years, and you're starting to detach. And there's a lot of work, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, the whole transformational journey. But I gave myself the permission in my M&M practice, along with what's transpired in my relationship with my husband. Because I mean, our sex life, it's always been good because we're so connected, but it's been really good in the
Lately.
last year. And I can even talk about magical blowjobs too. Okay.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Yes.
so I'm just dropping, whoever's listening is going to be like, I know Jen Stillion now in a whole different way. Wow. Um, so, what's transpired is it's me and the work that I've done on myself. And I gave myself permission to, I remember for so many years, I could not look at I could not look at my husband in his face and his eyes when we would have sex.
I'm
So
sure a lot of women listening are going to be like, yes,
because
that's
I was
me.
not secure with myself. This whole journey in the last 2 years is deepening. And I know for you too, Angela, is deepening my self-love and self-worth journey. And that is when you start to really see the power that is inside of you all along. And that starts transpiring in your relationship with your partner, your relationship with yourself sexually.
Yes.
And I had an intimacy problem. And intimacy means into me I see. And I had an intimacy problem with myself. And I was like, I don't want to give you a blowjob. I don't want to do these things. And even though it's my husband's favorite thing of all the planet, but I wasn't giving what he wanted
Yes.
because I was insecure. I had all these issues. So that is why it led me to vagina magic and all these things, these powerful things that are happening through me, because I've unblocked myself. I've released and I've really opened myself up physically and metaphorically. And I got into the flow of receiving.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of women they don't feel they're worthy of receiving. They don't feel worthy. And I can go on and on. I know Angela wants to talk. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I just want to echo back again about really this. When it comes to sex, it's really it's a there's a foundation that goes that there's that precedes that. And I believe that's what I'm just reflecting back to what you just said.
Mhm.
So it really starts with the relationship that you're having with yourself.
Mhm.
So for those of you that are listening that are like, maybe you're overwhelmed, maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm not there yet, whatever there means, like there's no such thing as there. But
Mhm.
I can't even wrap my head around this. This is overwhelming. My invitation to you is to really decide for yourself what your self-love practice is. And I would love to just dive into that a little bit, just really, really basic tips for those that out there that are like, this, I have too much shame. If you even realize it's shame or recognize it as shame, this is too overwhelming, or I'm single, I don't have a partner. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of shadows and objections that are coming up right now for people listening. And let's just make it really, really simple. And I'll also share what I've done too. But as far as stepping into your self-love and your self-worth, what are some things, really tangible things that people, goddesses, can do right away to really love themselves, Jen?
Mm. I feel like you got to stop yourself. You got to stop yourself, and have a practice every day, because I feel like one of the things about humanity is that we forget. It's forgetfulness. And this is why they say have a daily spiritual practice, DSP, and that's different for everybody, whether it's journaling or breathing or going out in nature or just taking a hot minute. But your self-love practice is a way of being. So just like you love on your children, the people in your life, how you love them, how you show up for them. And I'm sure most of you are overgivers, and you give and you give and you give and you give. You know how to love well. But imagine doing that to yourself times 10. And what would that look like for you?
Hmm.
It starts the moment you wake up. What are you saying to yourself when you're brushing your teeth and looking in the mirror? How are you talking to yourself? It's the stories and the things that you're saying to yourself. That's where it begins.
Yeah. And
And replacing them with loving thoughts. And yeah, you may have to start with the practice by going in front of the mirror every day, looking at yourself, loving yourself, replacing all the negative things that are coming up. It's a practice, and really just accepting yourself as you are. um and I mean, it just doesn't go away. I mean, this, it's a practice. You have to just be in it, whether it's listening to audiobooks on love, like love yourself like your life depend on it,
such a good
whether
book.
yeah, with me, I check in with myself. I usually check in during the middle of the day. The morning I'm good. The afternoon I'm like, okay, I stop, I put my hand on my heart. How you doing, Jen? How you feeling? Just like you would check in with your kid or with your partner or with somebody you love, like with your friend. How are you doing? Do it to yourself.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just an ongoing. I mean, that's just kind of my 2 cents. I don't know Angela, I'm sure you have a lot that you do
Yeah,
too.
I would echo what you said. And also, for people that are like, I can't do that. I mean, I had a client one time that really struggled with saying, I love you, I love you, I love you to herself. And let me ask you, if you have loved ones in your life, would you say to them, to your children, to your daughter, to your son, to your spouse, whomever, you're so ugly, your legs are too fat? Would you do that? And, those of you that are moms or parents and you're listening, kids are paying attention. You probably already know that. I watched my loved ones, the women in my couple women in my life, repeatedly be down on themselves for their weight. And that stays with you for life until you decide for yourself to let that go. So, and it starts with a self-love practice. And I've definitely had my journey of loving myself. And what's worked really well for me is the mirror work, like you just mentioned, Jen. You've really helped me. I had a session with Jen a few months back where it was loving myself through dance and music, dance and movement and
Mhm.
affirmations, and really just like halt has been really powerful for me personally. Like if I'm starting to feel haggard, I halt. And we both learned that through one of our mentors, Lisa, where it's you just stop and you check in with yourself, like you said. And usually when you're feeling you don't have the bandwidth, right? You can't go on, you're feeling irritable, angry, whatever it is, asking yourself, put your hand over your heart. I like to put my hand over my heart and my dantian or my belly and say, you know, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? And if all it's 4 out of 4, usually like that's like you always say, it's not cute, right? And just allowing that space to nurture myself and go inward. Maybe I need to have a snack. Maybe my blood sugar is wacky. Maybe I just need to lay down for 10 minutes. Maybe I'm lonely. Like I need, and I feel like, you know, since we're talking about vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have a hard time, including myself, admitting I'm lonely. You know, maybe it's just checking in with somebody, saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, right? Offering your heart to somebody else can open up so much for you in the department of loneliness. It can turn feeling like a victim to feeling more empowered. So I love HALT. And I also want to touch on, you know, those of you listening who are really busy, moms, you know, I can't do that. I can't halt. And my question to you is, you know, if you can't halt and you're noticing that it doesn't feel possible to you, my invitation is just to do tiny, tiny baby steps. And also examine where else in your life are you not honoring yourself by halting, by stopping, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And what specifically can you let go of? Because chances are, if you really start to look at your life through a fine-tooth comb, there's things that you can let go of. Maybe that text that was really urgent doesn't need to be answered. Maybe not now, maybe never.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that exhausting conversation with a relative needs to go. So there, for most women who fall into that people pleasing category, I know there's many of you, it's just a matter of being kind with yourself, taking baby steps and examining what you can let go of. And it
Yeah,
takes time and practice.
it does. I know halt has been around for a long time. I heard halt, I don't know how long ago, but it's so powerful. And again, it's checking in with yourself. And if you're not checking in with yourself, that's a choice. You're choosing to do that.
Yeah,
And you know, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's
that's
just
true.
it's just it's just a matter where you are placing your commitments and your priorities. And if you are not choosing yourself, what do you hope to gain by that? And that's the bottom line, because what you're doing, what you're saying is that I'm going to put everybody else's needs and wants before my own. And what does that say about you? And a lot of us women, we've been conditioned that way. We've seen our mothers and grandmothers, society, it's a whole thing. And it's like, it's what's that saying is, I feel validated by showing up for everybody else except myself. That's how I feel validated. That's how I feel worthy.
Yeah,
And it's such a broken model that we are,
so
you
broken.
know, in society today, that women are, you know, high influencers, everyone's talking about it. That's why self-care is so inundated. Self-care, put yourself first, put yourself first. But it's a practice for some of us.
It is practice.
Yeah.
It is practice for sure. And, you know, it takes time. And I know as a recovering people pleaser, I still have to check in with myself every single day
Mm-hmm.
and notice for myself, you know, where am I leaking my power? And I've been at this for many, many years, but it's still a practice. Just like, you know, people who are like, I'm not good at this. I want to speak to that because there's a lot of people that feel like they're either good at something or they're not, and there's no in between, there's no gray area.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that in the yoga community all the time. I'm not flexible. Well, that's because yoga is a practice. Would you expect to just sit in front of a piano and start playing Mozart concerto
Mm-hmm.
without ever practicing? It's the same thing. Would you expect to make it into the Olympics and just be an Olympic athlete without practicing your sport? And the successful people that I work with and have come in contact with, they will all say that no, it takes practice and commitment and choice every
Yeah.
single day. So tying this into sexuality,
Mhm.
one thing that I've really started committing to, and it took me 1 year, Jen, I was telling you this the other day.
Mhm.
I I'm still in this Facebook group with this woman, and her jam is pleasure.
Mhm.
And I'm just waiting for her to release her program. She's a dentist, and but her real passion is pleasure. And I learned all about yoni eggs. So yoni is a Sanskrit name for the vagina. And my understanding is that yoni, and for those of you goddesses out there that really understand yoni, I'm open to learning more. But it's basically it's the vagina, but so much more. It's what we're talking about today in this conversation. It's receiving, it's the connection to the divine. And so it's our anatomical vagina
Mhm.
and so much more.
Mhm.
And so last week, so I bought myself a yoni egg. And what a yoni egg is it's a crystal that's shaped like an egg. It's carved out, it's nice and smooth, and you can get it either drilled or non-drilled. And I listened to this influencer, Kim Anami, online. I highly recommend her podcast or anything that she does if you're curious about this subject. And she was saying, for those of you that are struggling sexually, maybe you don't have a partner, maybe you're just uncomfortable, I really suggest starting with a yoni egg. She calls it a jade egg. So I ended up buying one a year ago. It was rose quartz, and I just went by the recommendations and I bought a medium size. And what you do is you basically insert the yoni egg or the jade egg into your vagina like you would a tampon, same thing. But there's a practice with it. There's breathing, like you were talking about, the opening and allowing. There's a practice with doing this because you don't just want to jam it up, right? Your
Mhm.
vajayjay. It's just that would just be it wouldn't feel good. And the whole point of this is that you want it to feel like delicious, right? So yoni eggs are also recommended in like the Kegel community because you can do Kegel
Mhm.
exercises, tightening for those women who are they had a baby, they're finding that they leak after sneezing or whatever. It's really good for that too. But what it also does is it allows you to be in touch with your yoni in a different way. That's not a tampon because tampons
Yeah.
they're not, they're not very empowering in my interpretation.
Yeah.
And then the actual energy of the crystal, right? Rose quartz is all about self-love, and jade is also about self-love and acceptance and expansion. And I have to say, since I started doing that, I've noticed a huge shift in my personal power
Mm.
just by using a yoni egg.
Mm.
Oh, so going back, I want to mention this too. So I had this yoni egg, which was rose quartz, in my drawer for like a year, Jen. And every time I went to go use it, I was like, this is not comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. I don't like it. Maybe something, and I went there. I went there. Maybe something's wrong with me, right?
Oh, no.
And I took it personally, which
Mhm.
we never want to take things personally, but that's also a practice. So finally one day I just went on Etsy and I was like, all right, I'm going to follow what Kim Anami recommends, and I'm going to get myself a jade egg and get it one size smaller.
Mhm.
And that was it. That's what I needed for this time. So, my point being it's trial and error, and it's practice. It's nurturing that self-love. It's not forcing, but it's allowing. And for those of you out there that are really just like, hey, in addition to the self-love practice, I highly recommend looking into a yoni egg for
Mm.
yourself.
Mm. I love that. I haven't experienced it yet. I've heard so much about it. I'm surprised. I don't know why I haven't. Um, but the thing is, there's e- e- every single woman, you will find out what works for you. And you just have to explore because sexuality is going to be different to you, to me, to you, Angela. It's different. And the whole point is, I think the yoni egg is a symbolic tool to to be more mindful of your life force, because the whole, your womb, our ovaries, the whole vagina area, it's your life force. And you can hear my dog, Coconut. Okay. And Coconut, he's listening to us. He's
He's
like,
so
I like this
cute.
conversation.
Coconut is
Anyway,
so cute.
it's your life force. And when I'm doing movement sessions in my group, in my membership program, or doing one-on-one session, I really do emphasize sometimes some hips action, to bring that energy, to bring that flow. And it really is just, it's a reflection of your personal power. And that's what that is what the vajayjay is. So if you are like, I want to try something to practice, I think the yoni egg has a lot of messages. It's about patience, it's about receiving, it's
Yes.
about being kind to yourself. It's about just exploring this new way. And I know it's kind of a little weird and out there, but really it isn't. I mean, if we could put a penis up there, we could put, for some of us,
Yeah, exactly,
then we could put
exactly.
that up there. But it's just,
Our tampon. Yeah.
yeah, just channeling that energy. And it doesn't surprise me that you are seeing the change, but I think it's not the yoni egg. I think it's you. And I think you weren't ready to receive it yet,
I
you
think you're
know?
right, Jen. Yeah, and we talked about this offline, even with the
Yeah.
rose quartz.
Yeah.
Like rose quartz is all about self-love, and my body wasn't receiving the rose quartz egg, and it's still fully transparent since we're keeping it real. My body still hasn't accepted the rose quartz yoni egg, so it's a practice.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about just moving your hips and your dances, and Jen's dances, by the way. We're gonna at the end, and also in the show notes, I'll put in your Facebook group, because you have a Facebook group where you do dances,
Mm-hmm.
and just hips don't lie. Like that's
Just
Shakira's
don't
song,
lie.
"Hips Don't Lie" is popular for a reason, because they don't lie.
Yeah. I mean, there's
They
a
don't
lot of
lie.
movements. I mean, it goes way back into history where, there's fertility dances. They would use dance to do a lot of different things, and it's the movements, but it's really just to channel your own power to really reclaim who you are. And why not use a better way of, sexuality and movement. And it's all good stuff, all good stuff.
So much good stuff. And I just, to your point about reclaiming your personal power, when we're recording this and when this comes out, it's going to be summer of 2021. In Chinese medicine, summer is the season of the heart, and it's the element of fire. So for those of you
Woo.
wanting to reclaim your fire, this is a really great way to just, come back to yourself and get the fire in your life that you desire, the financial abundance and freedom, inner peace, radiant health, energy, balance. So if you have any questions, actually, before we go there, I just want to mention one other point that I think is super, super, super important about sexuality, and our connection to our kundalini, our sexual energy. And that is for those of you that are feeling like who are out there saying you're not feeling creative, or you're not creative,
Mm.
or you really want to get into your creative projects again, but you're feeling stuck. My recommendation and my invitation to you is to really consider looking at some of the things that Jen and I talked about today, because it's not just about pleasure and stepping into your personal power, but this is also our connection to our creativity, our sexuality, right? And you even said yourself, Jen, is you saw during orgasm, you saw what you're here to do on this planet,
Yeah.
and you're doing it. You've
Yeah.
turned it around by 180 degrees because of vagina magic. So how freaking powerful is that, goddesses?
Yeah, the thing is, it's play, it's fun, it's pleasure. And a lot of us don't prioritize fun and pleasure, and not just with sex, in life. And we came here to this planet to experience joy and play and pleasure.
Yes. Yeah,
That is what we're
absolutely.
designed to do. And the
As women,
vajayjay is created for that. You are designed to have multiple orgasms.
every
You
day.
are blocking yourself from receiving it,
Yeah,
from allowing yourself to go there.
yeah, yeah,
You are
absolutely.
capable. This is not a myth. This is not like, oh my gosh, that one girl, oh my gosh, she could have multiple orgasms and I can't. Yeah, no,
Oh,
bitch, you are capable of experiencing it too. You are just blocking yourself from it. And
yeah.
that's where you have to be a detective and figure out what is blocking me. What are the stories and the things that I'm holding on to that happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago that doesn't exist anymore?
And I just was listening to somebody. Who was it? I was listening to a video or watching a video recently about trauma. I don't remember. Maybe it was in our one of our groups. There's trauma with a capital T and trauma with a small t. And the statistic was astounding. And that is 90 to 95% of women have experienced some kind of like sexual trauma in their life. And again, capital T, little t. It could be just, somebody made a remark to you about
Mhm,
your vagina at one point. That's trauma with a small t. Okay. So
mhm,
we it's time to stop minimizing those interactions, because that anything that we hold in our body, or black magic, if you've read the four agreements, that stays with you until you are ready to release it. And some people never realize it because it stays in their subconscious, it stays in their cells. And until they're, maybe they watch something, maybe they watch a talk, maybe they meet somebody, or they just, start listening, start getting into personal development, then they realize, oh, the reason why I have shut myself off from my sexuality for 30 years is because when I was 16, a boy said something about my vagina.
mhm.
And that's how it starts. And sometimes it starts as early as infancy or in the wound, right? So
Yeah.
this is really powerful stuff. This is such a powerful conversation. I feel like, Jen, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, we can. And, it's up to you. If you've had big T traumas happen in your childhood, you have the power to go get help, seek some professional advice, work with a hypnotherapist, talk to your doctor, because I don't know what your story is, but you do have the power to change it and to
Yeah.
change it now so you can live, a really playful, pleasurable life in bed and outside of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, if there is somebody listening that does have serious trauma,
Mhm.
with a capital T, if you're getting triggered or if something's happening in your body, I do invite you to go get help,
Yeah.
because there is help. There's help for everybody.
Mhm.
And also know that you're not alone, because 95% of the population is not a small percentage. It's almost everybody.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Jen, thank you
Awesome. You're
so
welcome.
so
This was
much for this
fun.
conversation.
Yeah.
So for those people who have heard Jen's voice and they're like, I want to know that bitch,
Yes. Yeah.
where can they find you?
Well, I live over on the Instagram, so you could definitely come to my Instagram. It's Jen Stillion. Stillion rhymes with million. It's spelled like million, but with an STIJEN, Stillion. Or you can come visit me on my website, jenstillion.com. I know you probably put this in the show notes, but yeah, I mean, that's right now. You can come talk to me, say hi. I do have a free Facebook group you can join. I am opening up just a couple openings for one on one coaching with me this summer. Um, yeah, and just come say hi. So I'd like to meet you.
Wonderful, Jen. So yes, everything will be in the show notes, including the link to your Facebook group.
Yeah.
Jen, thank you so much for being here today. I know there's going to be so many goddesses that are going to hear this, and their lives are going to be forever changed for this, because sometimes you just
Yes.
need to hear that message that your soul has been looking for.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
wonderful. Thank you
And for
so much.
those, yes, and for those who do know me and are listening and know me and Angela, come say hi, because you're like, what? Jen is talking about vagina magic and all these things.
I have been wanting to sing that song throughout this whole episode. I'm going to be candid. Jen and
What
I,
song?
we like, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's
Oh,
talk about you and me.
talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be.
Let's talk about sex.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about sex.
Yeah. Bunch of
Anyways,
bomb, bunch of bomb.
we're being silly willies.
I know.
All right.
All right, goddesses. So until next time, be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can always reclaim your fire at any time, no matter who you are and what your circumstances are. Until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Jen. Thank you so much for listening to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. If you have found value in this podcast, please share this podcast with those you care about. As you probably already know, in order for the world to change, we need to change. So spread the word by sharing this podcast or by leaving a review in iTunes. Until next time, Fire Goddess, be radiant, be fiery, and be powerfully authentic. Take care.